Hassler here. I know that some of us are still having a hard time with setting up these equations from word problems or interpreting some points on a graph, or even just doing the straightforward solving by substitution. And so I'm just going to talk through this 4-1 to 4-3 checkpoint so that you can follow along and hopefully get a chance to really think through some of these concepts before our quiz. So number 1 says Jasmine spends T minutes on TikTok and G minutes on Instagram for a total of 90 minutes each day. I feel like those are important pieces of information. So T minutes on TikTok, G minutes on Instagram, total of 90 minutes each day. If she spends 3.5 as many minutes, 3.5 times as many minutes on TikTok than on Instagram, how many minutes does she spend on each social media platform each day? And so I'm told to write a system of equations. We've talked in class that a system of equations means that I need 2 equations that model the situation. T represents the number of minutes spent on TikTok. G represents the number of minutes spent on Instagram. I'm only going to set this up. I'm not going to solve. We'll practice solving by substitution on in a couple problems here. But you can see that I already kind of circled or underlined information in 2 different colors. And so when I'm asked to make these 2 equations for these types of scenarios, I have this total that I'm worried about. So I need an equation to represent the total amount of time spent on TikTok and Instagram each day. And then the other thing I have underlined is this 3.5 times as many, almost like this multiplier, right? A multiplier because I spend so many more minutes on one platform than the other. And it says 3.5 times as many. So multiply times multiplication. So let's talk about how to set up this total. I spend some minutes on TikTok and I spend some minutes on Instagram for a total of 90. So there are some minutes on TikTok. There are some minutes on Instagram for a total of 90 minutes. And so a total equation in this case is going to be as simple as T plus G equals 90. Some time on TikTok, some time on Instagram, a total of 90 minutes. So any combination of time that would equal 90 minutes. My multiplier is where I think some people are getting stuck. And so there's a couple ways that we can think about it. One, if she spends 3.5 times as many minutes on TikTok than Instagram, that means that she's going to spend more time on TikTok. 3.5 times as many minutes on TikTok means that more time is spent on TikTok. I'm going to make, me personally, I like a little table. So TikTok and Instagram. And the amount of time I spend on TikTok is more. It's 3.5 times more. Okay. And so I know this 3.5 is kind of maybe throwing us a little bit. So let's erase the 3.5 and let's just make it a 3 for the simplicity of this problem and the simplicity of setting it up. Let's say that she spends 3 times as many minutes on TikTok than she does on Instagram. So that means I'm looking at multipliers of 3. I know that TikTok is going to have more minutes. And so I'm going to start with the number 3 that I have. I spend 3 times as many minutes on TikTok than I do on Instagram. And I spend more time on Instagram. So if I spend 3 minutes on Instagram, I spend more time on TikTok. My apologies. So if I spend 3 minutes on TikTok and I spend more time on TikTok, 3 times more, then that means that for every 3 minutes on TikTok, I'm spending 1 minute on Instagram. Right? So multiples of 3. For every 6 minutes I spend on TikTok, I'm spending 2 minutes on Instagram. Right? 3 times as much time is spent on TikTok. I've got to turn this, though, into an equation. So to me, it looks like I'm taking this number here and I'm multiplying it by 3 in order to get 6. I'm taking the 1 here, I'm multiplying it by 3 in order to get the 6. So I've got to take the G, the minutes on Instagram, and multiply it by 3 to get the minutes on TikTok. let's think about this, right? If I spend more time on TikTok, so less times on Instagram, I need to take this least amount of time, and I need to multiply it so that this can get big enough to be equal to the more minutes. Right? If I start out with a small number, I've got to multiply it so I can match that bigger number. These are the two equations that I would pull from this scenario. So again, we had this total amount of time, and then we had this 3, I changed it to 3 times as many. Those would be my two equations. It asked me to set up only, do not solve. So we're going to set up only and do not solve. I think making a table is helpful. Or if you can logically reason through, like I was trying to talk you through right here, if we can logically reason through this, that TikTok is more time, so I have to multiply the lesser time by 3 in order to reach the greater amount of time. You have to, find a way that works for you. All right, 2, Nisha has a gift card with $25 on it to buy drinks from a local coffee shop. She wants to use her entire gift card to buy 7 drinks. The coffee shop sells lattes for $4 each and hot chocolates for $3 each. The graph shows the system of equations for this scenario where X is the number of hot chocolates and Y is the number of lattes in the drink order. It says the solid line represents the price Nisha paid for the drinks. So this line right here is the cost, the price that she paid. And the dashed line represents the number of drinks she ordered. So this is the quantity. Okay. That means that any of these points on this dashed line should add up to 7 because she bought 7 drinks. So this point E would be 1 hot chocolate and 6 lattes. Yeah, that adds up to 7. This point D here would be 3 hot chocolates and 4 lattes. Yeah, that adds to 7. Here we have 7 hot chocolates and 1 latte. Yeah. Or sorry, 7 hot chocolates. Ooh. Oh, that's because that's on the solid line. We want the dashed line. That's my fault. See, look at that. I got stuck on which line I should be on. Line A. Here we go. Line A is on the dashed line. That's my quantity. And she bought 4 hot chocolates and 3 lattes. There we go. So any point on the dashed line is how much I bought. Any point on the cost line is going to represent the combination that is going to add up to $25, knowing that hot chocolates were $3 and lattes were $4. So the combination of 3 hot chocolates and 4 lattes got me $25. There we go. The combination of 7 hot chocolates and 1 latte got me $25. Okay. Determine the point that matches each description. So the total number of drinks is correct. The total number of drinks is correct. That means that 7 drinks were purchased. But the combination does not have a value of $25. So if the combination of drinks is correct, the total number of drinks is correct, that means I have to be on my quantity. So that would be E or A or D. It says, but the combination does not have a value of 25. And so that would either be E or A. I could put E or A. All right, the next one says the combination of drinks has a value of 25. So the combination of drinks has a value of 25. That means that's going to be on my cost line. However, Nisha would have to purchase 8 total drinks. And that was actually my mistake down here, right? So this is on the $25 line. I spent $25, but I bought 7 hot chocolates and 1 latte, which is 8 drinks. That has to be point B. The total number of drinks is only 6. And the purchase would not have a value of $25. All right, so I'm thinking that that's going to be C. C has a total of 2 hot chocolate and 4 lattes. That's 6 drinks. And there's not a value of $25, which means that I am not going to be on that solid cost line. So I'm thinking that's point C. And this point satisfies both criteria. 7 total drinks have a value of $25. and that's going to be point D. It works for both, which means it's that intersection point, the point that makes both lines true. So just a little review of interpreting points given a graph. All right, let's take a look at the other side here. So it says solve each system of equations. I'm missing one on that, so I'm going to scroll down here since they're the same. All right, solve each system of equations if applicable. Indicate if there are no solutions or infinite solutions. Okay, so we're solving by substitution. All right, and we've talked in class that I'm looking for an isolated variable. So I have two equations, 1, 2, that's a system. I'm looking for an isolated variable. And so x looks isolated, meaning it's the only variable on that side. There are no other numbers with that variable. If x is equal to 2y, that means that they are equivalent. I can replace one with the other. So I'm going to replace x in the other equation with the 2y. We talked in class about the idea of playing sports and being a substitute. And so the idea is that, hey, I'm going to take that x out, and I'm going, because x is equal to 2y, I'm going to take the x out and I'm going to replace it with 2y. So I'm going to say 5y equals 2. In place of x, I'm going to write 2y. Since x and 2y are equal, I can replace the x with the 2y. I can substitute it out. And then I still have this minus 3. From here, I notice that I have only y variables. And so my job now is to solve for y. And so I've got 5y equals 2 times 2, which is 4y minus 3. I'm going to subtract 4y on both sides. That leaves me with 1y equals negative 3. Solving the system, though, means that I need to find both x and y. So solve for y, then we need to solve for x. I'm going to solve for x by coming back up here to this original, because it already says x equals. So x equals 2 times y. We found y to be negative 3, so x is going to be negative 6. And my final solution is written in that ordered pair, that xy ordered pair. And so I'm going to have negative 6 for x, negative 3 for y. Negative 6 comma negative 3. Let's take a look at problem 4. So again, I'm looking for that isolated variable. Here is my isolated variable, this y variable. And the claim is that y is equal to 4x minus 1. So again, I'm going to substitute. If y is equal to 4x minus 1, I'm going to replace y in the other equation with 4x minus 1. That means I'm going to take this y out, and I'm going to replace it with the 4x minus 1. So I've got 4x minus. When I go to replace, I'm going to put parentheses because y is equal to both the 4x and the minus 1. So I'm subtracting both of those. And then I'm going to finish writing equals 7. Technically, I have a negative 1 in front, so I have to distribute that negative 1. That gives me 4x, and then negative 4x, and negative times negative is a plus 1. And now I have only x's left, so I can start solving for x. Since these are on the same side of the equal sign, I can combine these, and that gives me 0. In fact, 4x minus 4x is 0. I'm just left with 1 on this side. I don't have any variables left. So there's no variable. 1 does not equal 7. I get this false statement. And so for that reason, my answer is no solution. And what that means is that if I were to graph these two equations at the same time, the lines would be parallel. All right, so I hope that little review helped. In addition to going over your review worksheet, make sure you check the spreadsheet for the answer key. And if you have questions, let your teacher know.